It's pretty amazing to think that a single pivotal battle, fought almost 1,400 years ago, is tied directly to a foundational chapter of the Quran. Today, we're going to dive into the story of the Battle of Badr and the scripture it inspired, Surah Al-Anfal. This quote from military historian Ghulam Jilani really just hits the nail on the head. You see, the outcome here wasn't just about winning on the battlefield, it was something much bigger. It fundamentally shaped the entire course of a new faith and put its followers on the map.
All right, so let's dig into this watershed event. We're going to look at the politics, the economics, the people behind it all, and then see how this one conflict led directly to the scripture that came right after.
Okay, so to really get this, we have to go back to 622 AD. The early Muslim community in Mecca is facing serious persecution, so they're forced to emigrate to a nearby oasis city that would soon become known as Medina. And this move, this migration known as the Hijra, really sets the stage for everything that's about to happen.
Now, take a look at this map. Geography is absolutely key here. You've got Mecca and Medina, which were basically these essential hubs in a huge sea of desert. And these trade routes you see connecting them to places like Syria and Yemen, they were the absolute lifeblood of the entire Arabian Peninsula.
And here's where things get really tense. That main trade route, the one used by the super wealthy Meccan merchants, ran right past the new Muslim base in Medina. You can just imagine the Meccan elite, the Quraysh, looking at this map and seeing a massive threat. Their entire economic prosperity was suddenly very, very vulnerable.
Now you have to put yourself in the shoes of the Muslims who had just fled Mecca. They had lost their homes, their jobs, everything. So raiding the caravans of the very people who persecuted them wasn't just some random act. It was a matter of sheer survival and, yeah, a way to hit back.
So in March of 624 AD, everything comes to a head. The Muslims decide to intercept a really big, wealthy Meccan caravan. But its leader, Abu Sufyan, gets word of the plan and calls for backup. And the result? You have the caravan, the Muslim force, and a huge Meccan army all heading for the exact same critical spot, the water wells at Badr. A battle was now unavoidable.
So the stage is set for this huge showdown. But what happened at Badr was a high-stakes confrontation where, on paper, the outcome should have been a foregone conclusion. Let's look at how this small, outnumbered group managed to pull off such an unlikely victory.
I mean, just get a load of these numbers. The Muslims were outnumbered more than 3-1. But that's not even the craziest part. Look at the equipment disparity. 2 horses versus 200. 70 camels versus 700. The Meccan Quraysh had a colossal military advantage. It wasn't even close.
So that's the million-dollar question, right? How on earth did such a small, ill-equipped force manage to win and win decisively? Well, the answer is this potent mix of strategy, faith, and just brilliant battlefield awareness.
This is where clever tactics completely changed the game. The Muslims got there first, and they immediately secured the best position by taking control of the water wells, which, in the desert, is everything. They also set up on higher ground, and get this, they positioned themselves so the morning sun would be at their backs, blinding the Meccan army as they advanced.
But you know, this incredible victory at Badr created a totally new and unexpected problem. All of a sudden, this small community had a ton of captured goods, the spoils of war. And this very practical, very human problem led directly to a moment of divine revelation.
So let's talk about the name of the surah itself, Al-Anfal. It literally means the spoils of war. It's named for the central issue that blew up the moment the fighting stopped.
Imagine the scene. The dust has barely settled. You've just won against impossible odds. And what happens next? A huge argument breaks out over how to divide up all the loot. And it was in direct response to this conflict that the first verse of Surah Al-Anfal was revealed, basically taking the decision out of their hands and placing it with a higher authority.
So verse 41 lays out this very clear formula, which becomes known as the ruling of the fifth. Here's how it works. 1/5 of everything captured is set aside. But this part isn't for the fighters. It's for the community's most vulnerable people, relatives, orphans, the poor, travelers. This established a core principle of social welfare funded directly by the gains of war. For its time, that was a truly radical idea.
But okay, Surah Al-Anfal is about so much more than just dividing up booty. The battle itself becomes this source for bigger principles, guiding everything from how to behave in a conflict to the nature of faith itself. Let's look at some of those key takeaways.
The chapter provides a whole framework for military and ethical questions. It talks about being steadfast when facing the enemy, it gives rules on treaties, it sets conditions for taking prisoners of war, and it calls on the community to always be prepared, to deter enemies through their own strength.
Then you get to one of the most striking verses in the whole surah, verse 65, and it makes this powerful claim about faith versus numbers. It promises that 20 truly steadfast believers can defeat 200 of the enemy. That's a 10-to-1 ratio. This isn't just a math problem. It's a deep statement about how conviction can give you a kind of strength that goes way beyond just having more soldiers.
So when you pull it all together, from the economic pressures that started it all, to the underdog tactics of the battle, to the divine laws that came out of it, the story of Badr and Anfal is this incredible mix of history, strategy, and theology. It really makes you think, right? How does a text that's so deeply connected to one specific moment in time continue to shape how people talk about justice, the rules of war, and the power of faith even today?